Crux senior correspondent Elise Harris is also covering the story. She's standing by in Rome. Elise, thank you so much for joining us and helping us unpack this very complicated issue. From your listening post, what are you hearing from the Vatican? Any public response to the grand jury report from the Pope?
Not yet. The Pope today was talking a lot about the feast of the Annunciation of Mary, and so he was celebrating that feast, and then he was offering prayers for this bridge collapse we had in Genoa yesterday. It was a huge tragedy, and so far almost 40 people have passed away. So far he hasn't said anything about this report specifically, but we know that he constantly talks about the topic of sexual abuse and clergy abuse, and he's been very insistent, especially in the last few months, on kind of cracking down on that, as we've seen in his actions in Chile, and as we've seen with him taking the red hat away from the former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. So we know that he's serious about this issue, and one thing I think we can be sure of is, the grand jury, before publishing this report, sent it to church officials in May so that they could have a chance to review the content and challenge any aspects that they wanted to. And so I'm pretty sure that the Pope probably received it at the same time in May, when the rest of the dioceses got their copy. I'm pretty sure the Pope received it and that he's aware of what the report says, and whether he says anything or not, he has not at this point, and he might in the future, but so far, we know, I can guarantee he's at least aware.
Okay, Elise, speaking of church officials, Albany Bishop Edward Scharfenberger said lay people should have a larger role when it comes to sex abuse allegations. Now, the Pennsylvania grand jury report, which is one of the most comprehensive yet, was compiled by lay people. Should they become more involved?
I think that's a big question. I think it's a good question. I think it's something that a lot of people have brought up in recent months and in recent years, is that if clergy abuse is an institutional problem where we're kind of defending one another, maybe lay people should get involved. And I think that's something that many people have been asking for. And I think it's not just one or two people. It's a lot of people saying that, maybe the lay people are the ones that can kind of, ensure that accountability takes place, because in a sense they're outside of the system and they have more resources in that sense to hold clergy accountable at times, but also they have professional skills, they have the training, and so I think it's something we can anticipate them, as we've seen in this report and as we've seen in others, taking a greater role in this topic moving forward.
When we talk about change and transformation, Elise, let's talk about the U.S. Bishop's Charter for the Protection of Children. It's highly regarded as one of the best, and it's been copied by many, but since its creation in 2002, it has been revised, but does it need an update?
I think that's a very good question as well, and that's something we can probably expect to see. After the scandals came out with Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, one of the things that was noted about the charter is that it remains at a diocesan level, and there are questions as to whether we want to take this to a next step, maybe to a national level or in terms of the universal level. And we don't know, if that's going to happen, but I think it's certainly one thing that people are looking at right now. And Cardinal Wuerl has released several statements about this issue, about in wake of the McCarrick scandals, and then even the Pennsylvania report, he's released statements. But on the McCarrick scandal, one of the things he said is that there was, a bishop's statement. They released a statement of their own commitment after the charter was published, and he said one of the things that needs to be revised is that own statement from the bishops in terms of greater accountability. And so people are already looking at these documents, I think, with that same question in mind. What's next? What is the next thing we can do to ensure that children are safe?
Elise, really quickly, and we're not making excuses here, but the grand jury investigation identified 2 Pennsylvania clergy involved in wrongdoing. 2 are too many, and it should be 0, but it is a drastic decline from the awful numbers decades ago. Are the actions being taken to prevent clerical abuse in the U.S. working? Really quickly.
The report actually addressed this, and it said despite all of the scandals we've seen in the past, and while setting the historical records straight is important, it said that after speaking with all 6 dioceses, progress has been made. They said in the past 15 years, since we've seen the majority of these scandals coming out, they said there has been a change in the church, that we're going to law enforcement and we're making children safer.
All right, Elise, thank you so much. I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you, Liz.